Amid the starvation and the suffering, have Europe and America ever been more divided over the disaster in Gaza? As the UK, France and Germany call for an immediate end to a humanitarian catastrophe, Donald Trump casts doubt over Hamas's desire for a deal and signals support for Israel escalating the war.
It was too bad. Hamas didn't really want to make a deal. I think they want to die, and it's very, very bad.
Here, pressure grows on the Prime Minister as over 200 MPs call for the UK to recognise a Palestinian state. Carl has the latest, also tonight. Arriving in Ayrshire, the US President touches down in Turnberry at the start of a 4-day trip, praising the Prime Minister but warning Europe to get a grip off immigration.
What do we want? Restoration. How are we going to get it? What?
Reckless and unnecessary condemnation from the Health Secretary as resident doctors strike in a dispute over pay. The world's unseen refugee crisis, how more than 1 million Afghans have been thrown out of Iran to an uncertain future. And feeling inktastic, how England fans and manager are preparing for the Women's Euro 2025 final.
So when you're in the final, you absolutely want to win it. And that's the only thing that I'm missing. I really, really want to win that final because I'm so competitive and so is my team.
This is ITV News at 10 with Gamal Fambaleh.
Good evening. Just before setting off for his trip to Scotland tonight, and we'll have more on that in a moment, President Trump gave a starkly uncompromising view on the collapsed Gaza peace talks. He claimed Hamas didn't want to make a deal and said they would now be hunted down, adding it was time, as he put it, to finish the job. A far cry from the mood music here, where pressure intensified on the government to recognise a Palestinian state. 221 MPs have now signed a letter urging Britain to take the step, a move which the Prime Minister said could only happen as part of a pathway to peace. Meanwhile, the UK, France and Germany today jointly called for an immediate end to what they described as the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza.
These pictures were filmed for ITV News in Gaza City this morning. The United Nations says 1 in 5 children here is malnourished. This child is a 2.5-year-old boy called Yazan. He is starving, says his Aunt Rewa. His parents have no food and no milk to give him because of the siege, and his health is deteriorating. He can't stand up, she says. If he tries, he falls down immediately. What food there is in Gaza is scarce and short of nutrients. Aid agencies warn of mass starvation, but Israel says there are 1,000 truckloads of aid waiting at one of the border crossings, which the UN refuses to do anything with.
I want to emphasize that the state of Israel doesn't limit the trucks of aid coming to Gaza Strip. The main issue or the main problem is the collection and distributing issue.
The dispute over why the aid isn't getting to where it's needed is growing ever more bitter.
We are doing everything that we can. We're not sitting around and waiting for someone to tell us what to do. But sometimes you go to the first holding point and something, an incident happens where we have to turn around because it's too dangerous for us to move. Sometimes a route is given to us that we already know is too dangerous, so we have to cancel the mission ourselves.
The leaders of France, Germany and the UK issued a joint statement this afternoon. The humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza must end now, they said. We call on the Israeli government to immediately lift restrictions on the flow of aid and urgently allow the UN and humanitarian NGOs to carry out their work in order to take action against starvation. One sure way of getting food in would be a ceasefire, but the talks in Doha have stalled again after Israel and America withdrew their negotiating teams.
It was too bad. Hamas didn't really want to make a deal. I think they want to die, and it's very, very bad. I think what's going to happen is they're going to be hunted down.
Israel announced this afternoon that foreign countries would be allowed to drop aid into Gaza once again, as the RAF did last year. Such is the extent of Gaza's crisis, though, those flights would be just drops in an ocean of desperate need. Geraint Vincent, News at 10.
And Carl is here. Carl, there's been condemnation from the UK, France and Germany, and now we've seen over 200 MPs, more than half of them Labour. They've signed a letter calling on the UK to follow France to recognise a Palestinian state. Just how much pressure is there on the Prime Minister right now?
A huge amount of pressure, because it's not just a third of the MPs in Parliament, many of them Labour MPs, it's cabinet ministers as well and people within government. Yvette Cooper, Angela Rayner, Wes Streeting, they're all thought to favour recognising a Palestinian state now. There is a question about what difference it would make. In the letter the MPs wrote to the Prime Minister today, they said UK recognition would have a significant impact due to our historic connections and our membership on the UN Security Council, so we urge you to take this step. It would be true that we would only be the second G7 nation to be recognising Palestinian statehood, were we to do it, and would certainly send a message to Israel. The Prime Minister, however, tonight has said basically not yet. He says it should happen, but it should only happen as part of a pathway to a peaceful two-state solution. So he doesn't want to go there yet. But the argument that has been made by these MPs and these ministers is that even if that was once the case, that it should wait, given what is now happening in Gaza, given the stated aims of some Israeli ministers that they want to seize Gaza and the West Bank, it is now time to recognise a Palestinian state while there is still a Palestine left to recognise.
Yeah, OK. Carl, many thanks indeed. And you can go to our website to see if your MP was one of the 221 who signed that letter. Now, no sooner had President Trump arrived in Scotland tonight at just before 8:30 than he plunged straight into controversy. He said Europe needed to get its act together on immigration, or as he put it, you're not going to have a Europe anymore. He also described illegal migration as an invasion. During his planned four-day visit, surrounded by massive security, Mr Trump will hold talks with the Prime Minister and also Scotland's First Minister, John Swinney, as well as visiting his golf courses. The meeting with Sir Keir Starmer providing an opportunity to finalise the details of a UK-US trade deal.
Greeted by supporters and plane spotters rather than protesters, when President Trump touched down at Prestwick Airport this evening, no one was quite sure what this visit was for. Here for 4 days to visit two of his golf courses.
He may have landed on Air Force One, but this isn't an official trip. A private visit, says the White House. Part golfing holiday, part promotion for his own business interests, with a bit of diplomacy thrown in.
But Donald Trump was barely down the aeroplane steps before wading into politics. Some of it diplomatic, some of it not so much. Starting with Keir Starmer, who he will meet on Monday.
I like your Prime Minister. He's slightly more liberal than I am, as you've probably heard, but he's a good man. He got a trade deal done. And, you know, they've been working on this deal for 12 years. He got it done. It's a good deal. It's a good deal for the UK.
But he was less complimentary about the EU. He will also host the Commission President this weekend.
Stop. This immigration is killing Europe. And the other thing, stop the windmills, killing the beauty of your countries. Thank you very much, everybody.
Trump is headed first to his golf course just down the coast at Turnberry, which has become something of a fortress for this weekend. Security in part being provided and paid for by his Scottish hosts. Hundreds of extra officers drafted in, to the bemusement of many people here.
There's enough trouble going on in the world at the moment without Donald Trump coming to Scotland to play golf.
I think it's great that he visits Scotland because his mother is from Scotland and he invested a lot to Scotland.
The bill will land at the doorstep of Scottish people.
Is it worth it?
I don't see why it is.
No, not for a private visit.
Over the years, Trump's had a tricky relationship with Scotland, not least when he turned these Aberdeenshire sand dunes into a golf course, meeting fervent opposition. He'll open a second course there next week, named after his Scottish mother. When he last played golf here as president, protesters got within shouting distance and inside the restricted airspace. Thousands demonstrated, as they are due to again this weekend.
I don't know anybody in Scotland who's a fan of Trump. I don't know anybody in Ukraine who's a fan of Trump. I'm certainly absolutely sure that no one in Gaza is a fan of Trump. So we shouldn't be here either, and we should be absolutely clear that he's not welcome.
With American and Scottish flags flying, the president waved from his armoured limo as his motorcade passed through Ayrshire this evening, ahead of a weekend of golf and who knows what else while he's here.
Well, Ben is at Prestwick Airport, where Donald Trump landed tonight. The president's very much making the usually quiet coast of Scotland his home. What can we expect over the next few days?
Well, it certainly seems already like the crazy unpredictability of the Trump White House has just picked up and relocated to a remote spot on the west coast of Scotland for the next few days. He was supposed to be having a quiet weekend playing golf. Now it turns out he's meeting the EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen on Sunday, and he's already laying into Europe on the issue of immigration and a personal obsession of his wind turbines, of all things. If he thought he could escape the political pressure he's facing at home over his links to the disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein, well, those questions followed him right to the airfield here at Prestwick Airport this evening, dismissed by the president as not a big thing. Into all of this step Keir Starmer, who will meet the president on Monday before he's then taken on Air Force One up to Donald Trump's golf course in Aberdeenshire. We don't think they're going to play golf together, but frankly, who knows? And also John Swinney, the Scottish First Minister, who's faced criticism here for agreeing to meet President Trump, although he says he wants to discuss with him the issues that matter to Scotland, not least tariffs on Scotch whisky. And then, of course, there are the protesters who I am sure will do all they can to get themselves in President Trump's eye line over the next few days. And, of course, the police officers trying to stop them, many of whom have had to cancel leave in order to work this weekend. It promises to be a lively few days.
Ben in South Ayrshire, many thanks indeed. A BAFTA-nominated star of one of the most critically praised British TV dramas of recent times has been charged with rape and sexual assault. Police say Michael Ward, who's 27, is accused of offences against one woman that allegedly took place in January 2023. The actor had a major role in Top Boy, a gritty drama series set in the housing estates of East London. Mr. Ward released a statement tonight saying he denies the charges against him entirely and is cooperating fully with police. Bringing an end to the seemingly endless grind of strikes by junior hospital doctors, now known as resident doctors, was a rare high point in Labour's troubled first year in office. But all that changed today when those in England took to the picket lines again for a new 5-day strike over pay. The Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, condemned the strikes as reckless and said everything was being done to minimise the impact on patients. The doctors claim that despite last year's settlements, their pay in real terms is still way below what it should be.
It's a dispute this government thought it had brought to an end when it came into power. A year later, and just after 7 this morning, doctors once again down tools.
What do we want?
Striking for the 12th time in just over 2 years.
Doctors don't want to fight. We don't want to be on strike. So let's restore pay. Let's pay doctors £22.67 an hour, and we can fix the NHS together.
Quite often I would be covering 60, 80 patients just by myself overnight, as an example. I'd be working on the wards, treating patients. In emergencies, I'd be providing life-saving treatment, starting CPR, that sort of thing. And we think £23 for a doctor is a fair deal.
public support, recent polls are showing, is waning for resident doctors. How do you feel about that?
I think it's a challenge. We do want the NHS to survive as the incredible institution that we all are so proud to work for. The only way we can do that going forward is to have fair pay, fair working conditions.
But for Claire, what's not fair is waiting for an operation she desperately needs. She has a rare condition that affects the nerves in her spine. Her treatment, already delayed because of last year's strikes, has now been postponed again.
You gear yourself up ready for the operation, which is going to be life-changing, but at the same time give me my life back. And then it just gets put back again and again. So I've just had enough, if I'm honest now. And I get it all with the NHS. We're in a mess, aren't we? The system's broken.
What do we want? When do we want it? Now!
But doctors say they're fighting after being underpaid for 17 years. Last year, they accepted a government pay deal worth 22% on average over 2 years. This year, they were awarded an average pay rise of 5.4%, the highest in the public sector. But the British Medical Association says they deserve a further 26% uplift, which they claim is needed after years of pay erosion. It means operations will be cancelled and appointments delayed, even though hospitals are striving to keep as many services as possible running. This morning, the Health Secretary was in the NHS control room monitoring how they were coping.
While the BMA's action is unnecessary and unreasonable, we'll be doing everything we can to make sure the NHS is there for patients, and we won't let the BMA hold this country to ransom.
The government is holding firm, so too are the doctors. Caught in the middle, patients. The question is, how will the NHS survive this standoff? Sejal Karia, News at 10, Central London.
There's plenty more to come on News at 10, including the refugees forced out of Iran returning to an uncertain future in Afghanistan. And ready for kick-off, excitement's building among Lionesses fans in Switzerland as England prepare for Sunday's final.
Amazing to see that so many are supporting us, and hopefully one more on Sunday.
That and more after this break. Hello, welcome back. You could call what is happening in Afghanistan at the moment the world's unseen refugee crisis. More than 1 million Afghan refugees have been unceremoniously thrown out of Iran and sent back to their country, sent back in many cases to an uncertain fate. Over several decades, millions were forced to flee Afghanistan by factors like military conflict, including the 2021 Taliban takeover. The United Nations reckons upwards of 4 million Afghan people have crossed into neighbouring Iran in the last 40 years, with many second and third generations building a life in Iran. But the pictures now drastically change amid heightened Middle East tensions culminating in the recent Israeli and US attacks on Iran. Tehran began its programme of expulsions, 1.5 million Afghans so far this year, with over 400,000 people forcibly sent back in the past month alone.
This is the daily scene on Iran's borders as it sends millions of Afghan refugees it's hosted for decades back home, many of them born here. First came the formalities of the paperwork, sending them back to the country they fled but have no experience of. Then came the shock of confronting the emotional reality of being forcibly deported. Gul Khan breaks down as he claims that his young son was beaten as they were forced across the border. Deportations of illegal migrants is a global topic, especially in the West. But the stark number of Afghans Iran is deporting is startling. 1.5 million sent back so far this year. Malvi Abulais is the Taliban commander of a temporary refugee camp in the Afghan capital Kabul, welcoming returnees.
Around 3,000 to 3,500 refugees are coming into this camp on a daily basis, and all the arrivals are staying here just for 24 hours because it's a temporary camp and the arrivals are evacuating to their provinces.
So why is Iran doing this now? Because of this. In June this year, Israel conducted a devastating strike on Iran's critical military and nuclear facilities and assassinated senior Iranian military officials. It's hard to imagine Israel could have done this without internal help. Iran's suspicion is that Israeli intelligence recruited desperate and poor Afghan refugees to be agents and guide Israeli strikes into their targets. This was a video produced by the Iranian military showing what they said was a bunker near a military site with Afghans hiding inside it. And now many, like Mariam, return to a country, Afghanistan, ruled by the Taliban.
Iranian security forces weren't allowing Afghans to live or work. Now, I and my 2 children live in my aunt's house as we search for a house to rent.
Her story is the same for millions of Afghans, especially women, returning to a country where virtually no humanitarian agencies are allowed to work, and many female returnees are not allowed to be educated or go outside unaccompanied by a male relative. And this after years of Western intervention in Afghanistan to be rid of the Taliban and make it safe for refugees to return safely, not under duress. Raghu Omar, News at 10.
The coroner at the inquest into the death of the former England cricket star Graham Thorpe said there were failings in the provision of care for him. Mr. Thorpe, who was 55 and suffered from depression, died when he was struck by a train at a railway station in Surrey last year. The coroner recorded a conclusion of suicide. His family said they would never get over his loss and vowed to help reduce the stigma felt by people who suffer poor mental health. It was confirmed today that the Riverdance star Michael Flatley is to seek a nomination to become Ireland's next president. The revelation emerged in court during a case about works carried out at his mansion in County Cork. Notifying the court of a material change in Mr. Flatley's circumstances, an affidavit was submitted signalling the Irish-American choreographer's intention to seek nominations. The death was announced today of the veteran British jazz singer Dame Cleo Lane. She was 97.
Here is where we have a showdown. I'm too highbrow, you're too low down. Crazy rhythm, it's goodbye to you.
Famed for her trademark husky voice, Cleo Lane worked alongside legends like Sinatra and Ray Charles. Regarded as one of the greatest British jazz vocalists of all time, she also enjoyed broad popular appeal. Cleo Lane and her husband, the late band leader John Dankworth, were for many years twin icons of British jazz. In 1997, she became the first British jazz artist to be made a Dane. On to football now, and the manager of the Lionesses, Sriga Wiegman, spoke candidly to us tonight about her hopes for Sunday's Euros final in Switzerland against Spain. If England are to retain their crown as champions, they have to beat the team that she herself acknowledges are the tournament's favourites. But despite the clamour to give starting places to the super subs who saved England's bacon against Sweden and then Italy, Serena Wiegman simply said some players are best to come from the bench.
Serena Wiegman is the coach with the Midas touch. Her CV is unrivaled, and on Sunday she'll lead a team into her 5th successive major final. She admits the tournament has played out like a movie, but is there a happy ending in store?
If I would write a happy ending, of course, and that's really clear. But let's just first play the game.
But for her super subs, Wiegman might already be home. Many fans think she's waited too long to deploy her sharp-shooting finishers who've made such an impact.
They've done so well, there is an argument that maybe they should be given an opportunity to start?
Well, that depends on, I think, the manager's decision. I think that it's different when you're a starter or when you're a finisher. And I think some players could start to. I think for some players at this moment, for me, it's still the best to come from the bench.
Ella Toon, one regular who's been by Wiegman's side from the start, says the players have really put their manager through it here.
I mean, I think we've nearly killed her twice this tournament. She said we've definitely aged her. But no, you know, I think that's 5 consecutive tournaments for Serena being in a final, and that's just unbelievable. We know we're in good hands.
As the Netherlands coach, Wiegman won the Euros in 2017. She then led them to the World Cup final 2 years later, before embarking on her extraordinary adventure with the Lionesses. That began by clinching the first major title for a senior England team since the boys of '66.
What would it mean to you personally, not the players, but you, to retain the title?
When you're in the final, you absolutely want to win it. And that's the only thing that I'm missing. I really, really want to win that final because I'm so competitive, and so is my team, the staff and the players, and we just want to get it through, and then we'll see what happens.
What's the last thing you'll be saying to them before Sunday?
Play our game, play to win, and part of playing football is making mistakes. That's okay. So just go for it.
The FA said yesterday if anyone was asking, Serena Wiegman wasn't available at any price. If she wins this weekend, their resolve to keep her on board could well be tested. Steve Scott, News at 10, Zurich.
And finally, the opening games lost to France, the nerve-shredding chaos of the penalty shootout win over Sweden, victory snatched from the jaws of defeat against Italy. More than once in this tournament, the Lionesses fans might have been forgiven for wondering if they were going home early. But they kept the faith, and so did the team. And our supporters and players alike gearing up for England's title defence in the final on Sunday.
They've spent the tournament on tenterhooks. Exciting, yes, but at times excruciating too. England fans have lived and breathed every second of the drama, both loved and loathed their team for putting them repeatedly through the ringer before always, somehow, coming up with a result. These two haven't missed a single match. What better way to celebrate tying the knot than by setting off on a Swiss adventure, travelling from stadium to stadium with no shortage of stunning scenery in between.
This is Ruby. This is where we've been sleeping for the last 3.5 weeks on our tour of Switzerland.
And how would you describe the journey since you arrived? It's been a bit of a wild ride, hasn't it?
Yeah. Turbulent. All everyone's talked about for the last 5 days is how exhausted they are. Yeah. Everybody is emotionally just done. I feel like we need time off more than the players.
We need time to decompress.
Yeah.
The players might not agree with that, but they certainly seem to appreciate the support.
The fans are incredible. We actually said after the game it felt like we was at Wembley, whether that's in Switzerland or just down the pub with their mates. It's amazing to see that so many are supporting us, and hopefully one more on Sunday.
Well, you're going next. Yeah, I am going next.
And as if the final wasn't enough, these fans have given themselves something else to be nervous about.
So we're going to get the female symbol with a little football as well.
What if they don't win on Sunday? Are you still going to be glad you've got it?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I think that's why I'm glad we're doing it before we win, because I know some say, oh, if we win, we'll get a tattoo. But we want to commemorate the whole tournament.
And in just a couple of days, the fans will know how that tournament ends.
Can they do it one more time?
It's going to be tough. It's Spain. They beat us in Australia, but I think this is our revenge.
Do you think your nerves can hold out for one final
I hope so.
time?
Yeah. I just hope that this time we can get our noses in front to start with.
Next stop, Basel. The last leg of a journey that has already been quite the ride. Chloe Keedy, News at 10, Switzerland.
And don't forget, you can watch that final, England versus Spain, here on ITV1 and ITVX on Sunday. Our coverage of the build-up starts at 3:30. and wishing the Lionesses all the very best of luck. It's going to be exciting, if not a very nervous watch. That is it for tonight from all the team here. Many thanks indeed for watching. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.